Welcome guys. In this video we'll be talking about different ways to try to use a 3D printer to create designs on a t-shirt. Let's get into it. Alright, so this is the basic design I have made for my t-shirt. So I made this in Fusion 360. It's got my logo here and then a neat little hexagon pattern. And I set this to just 0.2 millimeters thick, so it'll be one layer at standard quality. And then I'm gonna set this to print plate adhesion type none, so that way it won't make a skirt or do any other marks on the t-shirt. And then also in the G-code make sure to delete the line, so that way it's only printing this section and nothing else on the t-shirt. So I'm going to get this sliced, get it on my printer, and then we will check on the results. All right, I just clipped the t-shirt to the print bed using my standard clips, and it automatically zeroed out, and it's printing our one single layer. Let's see how it turns out. All right, so this is the finished PLA print. I did peel off the end, and we'll get to that in a second here. I think overall it printed pretty well. The contrast with PLA on the gray is great. There's a few small mistakes here, which could either be fixed by another layer. This was just a single 0.2 layer. Again, the shirt rumpled up a little bit, and you should probably see in the video. But if I had secured it better, I think it would print a little bit better. And I think if you were doing a costume where you really weren't worried about long-term wear and tear, or something where it's kind of a one-off design, or something you're not going to wear a bunch of times, I think this is feasible. I think this will work, but really, and the reason the end's off already is because I did a test. You can see these letters peel up and they just come right off pretty easily. So if you're going to put this in the washing machine, I don't think it's going to survive very long. So this as a method for reliable t-shirt printing, PLA is not the way to go. All right, so trying alternate materials. I did try a yellow TPU. You can see this printed pretty well. This is 2 layers. I did have a little bit of stringing here and there. I've actually put this one through the wash just to confirm everything stayed on. And it does, it's adhered better than the PLA, certainly. But you can see that some of these edges are starting to come up a little bit. It's, again, more secure than PLA. And again, still, I think this, with 2 layers, pops pretty well on this black. Again, if I had probably addressed my retract settings on this printer, I could fix the stringing. So I say this is similar to the PLA where it's feasible. This is a little bit durability. It's more flexible, so it's not as likely to pop off. But it's not something, I think, for reliable t-shirt printing. Not in my opinion. All right, so next up on my test list was a thought of what if I don't print directly on the t-shirt, but what if I print something that I can use with an ink to stamp on? So I bought this. This is a white screen printing ink. So it's Heatset. So normally you would use this with a screen printer, and then basically that uses a photo cured screens, and then you basically put this on top of it, and then it sets with like a dryer or heat gun or hair dryer. So I wanted to try this using some different stamps. So this is a logo for a friend's game. It's in reverse, but it's the game's Nature of War, so this is kind of first backwards. This is N, it's supposed to be an O, and then it all forms a W now. And then this is the Plaque Design logo I've been using. Again, this is done in reverse, so basically took the same design and then made essentially a stamp out of it using PLA. Now, I've had a minor success in that it adheres. So these are the designs I've printed. So you can see, you know, it kind of gets there, but it's really blurry because I have a hard time transferring it properly. So you can see on a couple other on this black, again, it pops really well. The design's there, but the stamp just isn't reliable enough. The PLA doesn't really hold the ink. So this is one where I just kind of try to stamp it in the ink, and then this one's where I really try to smear it on and paint it on, and it just ends up way too heavy. So I feel like the stamp design did not really work as I wanted it to, and I tried a variety of different things trying to, you know, wet the ink down or make it more feasible, but to me the stamp method did not work very well. So we're going to move on to something else. All right, so what I've got here is a PLA 3D printed plaque that I've got essentially rubber band on top of a printer box with my t-shirt kind of stretched out underneath. I think ideally I would have a bit more pressure on here. That's probably something I'll have to figure out, but I'll probably hold it down as I go. But I've got my ink here. It's pretty thick. It's not quite Play-Doh consistency, but it's pretty thick. I'm going to try to brush it on here and see what happens. So I'll try to hold this in place to put some pressure on it, and then I'm going to brush the ink on, and then we'll see how it looks. Okay, it's there, but we got a lot of bleed through that. The crispness didn't hold, but it's like on the edges. It's just we weren't affixed close enough to the t-shirt to be able to get the design without it kind of bleeding around the edges, especially with kind of my aggressive painting. So, on to the next thing to try. Alright, so what I did for this example is I actually 3D printed PLA on top of the shirt, looking at how they do. It's kind of the normal t-shirt printing. They use a screen mesh, and basically I think trying to just hold the design up to the shirt, it didn't have the integrity around the letters. So I'm hoping I created like a little tray here. I can kind of replicate the normal way using a t-shirt screen, basically using the shirt as the screen and then the PLA just as essentially the stretched matter in the photo cured section. So basically where the PLA is, it won't get any ink, and then I can hopefully just peel the PLA off. Watching videos online, they basically just have a little bit of the ink in the tray. So I'm going to put some of the ink in essentially my little tray here, and then slop some on here, like so. And then I also 3D printed myself a TPU little squeegee, since that's what people online use. Not a 3D printed one, but a squeegee, and then they just work it across here. So I'm going to work this across, and then hopefully we'll peel the PLA away and see what happens. Alright, unfortunately you can kind of see everything turn white with that, and I've got some on my fingers, so that will be a problem later. But you can see it's all covered, and so I'm going to peel this up and we'll see what happens here. Alright, if my hands had been cleaner, I think this would have turned out really well. You can see I got some on the edge where I gripped it, and really that's just my fault, but you can see those lines are a lot crisper. So we're going to dry this and see what happens. All right, so this is the new PLA print I've put together. It's my old design. The other one was a little bit big for what I wanted. I'm going to try to put this kind of just off center on the left side of my chest. And I went back to the original lettering, same with the hexagons. And I made, this is essentially 2 layers thick in this center oval here. I wanted to reduce the overall material used. That way it's a little easier to peel off. I did keep a small well since I'll still be using the Heatset ink. So the plan is to slice this, load a t-shirt back onto the printer, and reprint this and put the ink back on there. Again, build plate adhesion type set to none, and then again make sure you delete the line, so that way we do just this PLA piece. So let's go check on the print. Alright, so lessons learned from last time is I think the squeegee that I used previously, the TPU squeegee, I think it put too much material on here, and I think it resulted in too thick of letters. It also didn't help that I dropped the last one onto itself, and it kind of got more of the same ink everywhere. So I'm going to use a brush again to brush the screen printing ink on. And then number 2, I'm going to keep this design on here and then hit it with a hair dryer, then try to get it in the dryer. So that way I know everything should be sealed as it dries, and I don't have to worry about trying to get any of my fingers and getting everything everywhere. So we're going to brush this on. I'll probably hit it with a hair dryer off screen, and then we'll see how it looks. All right, I realize unfortunately as that's spread on there, basically you can't really see it in the camera, but all the letters are filled in. So hit it with the hair dryer, and then we'll peel this off on camera, and we'll see how it looks. All right, I hit this with the hair dryer for about 30 seconds on high. Everything looks dry, so let's peel it off and hopefully get a good reveal here. All right, and there we go. I think if I had done a different color, it might have a slightly better pop, but I still think this looks really good. The letters came out really crisp. And I was able to do the design where I have a center I can peel off so it doesn't have to all be connected. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. Now, obviously this was a little labor intensive, but it is a alternate way to print, and I think this is gonna last a lot longer. I'll put this through a wash and see how it looks, but yeah, really happy with how this turned out. Hi guys, I'm wearing the final shirt here. It has gone through the dryer to heat set and then gone through the wash again to test it and then dryer again obviously so I can wear it. Really happy with how the design turned out. It's got good detail. It seems to hold up pretty well. Granted, we'll see how it holds up in the long term, but really happy with how this project turned out. It's not very good, I think, for large batches. It's a little labor intensive to produce even a single shirt with the printing and then doing the screen printing ink over it. However, the screen printing ink is pretty cheap, so if you have a 3D printer already, the investment's pretty low. It's just really the work to put into it and get a shirt out of it. So I think it's a very feasible idea. Again, just not good for large batches. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe for more. Thanks.